On Christmas Eve in Chicago, the streets were drenched in twinkling lights, carols drifting through the air, and laughter spilling from every corner, but not at the Harper mansion. Behind that dark wooden door, crystal glasses chimed like bells, and the laughter rang out like a cruel song. And just outside, on ice-caked steps, my daughter, Olivia, was curled up and shaking, wearing only a thin blouse while the 28 degrees of wind whipped her skin, as if it meant to tear her small body apart. I wasn't supposed to be there. I had just come back from a long trip with nothing but an old suitcase and the giddy hope of surprising my girl. I pictured Olivia's radiant smile when her mom showed up out of nowhere on Christmas Eve. The smile that had kept me warm through years away from home. But what I saw that night wasn't joy. It was every mother's worst nightmare. Through the frost-blurred window, I saw them, the Harper family. Ethan, Olivia's husband, his parents, Evelyn and Charles, and his sister, Abigail. They were gathered around the fireplace, raising glasses of red wine that glittered in the glow, their faces lit with heat and comfort. I heard them clearly, their taunting voices cutting sharp. "She's just faking depression. A woman who can't even give us a child. What good is she?" Each word hit my ears like a blade carving straight into my heart. Then I heard a faint sound, a whimper. I turned, and my heart stopped cold. Olivia, my only child, was huddled on a wooden chair, her face ghost pale, her lips purple, her whole body trembling like a leaf in a snowstorm. In that moment, I wasn't a boxing coach or a woman just back from a long road. I was a mother who would burn the world down before letting her daughter suffer like this. I flung off my coat, wrapped it around Olivia, and pulled her into my arms. Her breath came weak, and her voice, thin as air, whispered, "Mum," one word, just one, holding every ounce of pain and humiliation she'd swallowed for so long. Inside, jingle bells kept playing, cheerful and vicious. I'd heard enough. My blood boiled. My fists clenched. And when I kicked that door open, 6 words flew from my mouth that made the entire Harper family go dead silent. 6 words that turned their Christmas feast into the opening move of a war. Karen Mitchell used to be known as a respected boxing coach in Chicago. She's 52, solidly built, broad-shouldered, still carrying the muscle tone of someone long off the mat, but never out of discipline. Karen's face shows a life fully lived, fine lines at the eyes, silver threading her hair that's usually tied back. Outsiders see steel. Anyone who's trained under her knows she runs on iron discipline and a warm heart. For years, she's crisscrossed the country coaching youth teams, proudest when the timid turned strong under her watch. But underneath it all, one thing kept tugging at her. She hadn't been near her daughter enough. Olivia Mitchell, her only child, was the light of her life. Olivia is 27, a preschool teacher in the northern suburbs of Chicago. Unlike her mother's hard edges, Olivia is gentle, kind, a lover of simple things and little kids. Her smile once soothed Karen after the toughest tournaments. Then Olivia married Ethan Harper, a young attorney from the wealthy, high-profile Harper family, and her life veered off course. Ethan came from power. His father, Charles Harper, wielded influence across Chicago's legal circles. His mother, Evelyn, was famously strict and placed the family's reputation above everything. Outwardly, the Harpers looked accomplished and proper. People who knew them understood they looked down on anyone they deemed not their level. To them, Olivia was just a sweet, ordinary girl, soft, not strong enough to measure up as a Harper daughter. In law, their contempt grew after Olivia suffered 3 miscarriages. Each time, she drowned in tears and self-blame, while her in-laws treated it like failure, an embarrassment. Ethan, the man who'd promised to protect her, revealed a cold indifference. He was busy, rising fast, and slowly aligned with his parents, ignoring the emotional wreckage Olivia lived with. Karen knew her daughter was hurting, but she never imagined the depth of cruelty Olivia faced. So after a long coaching stretch on the West Coast, she decided to come back unannounced. In her heart, she carried a simple hope: give Olivia a whole Christmas. Just a small reunion built on mother and daughter. Nothing fancy, Chicago glittered that night, snow frosting rooftops, the upscale streets lined with sparkling pines. Stepping out of the taxi, Karen tugged her old suitcase up the stone path to the Harper mansion. The place blazed with light, every window leaking warmth from a lavish party. From a distance, she could already hear familiar Christmas music and the sharp clink of toasting glasses. She drew a deep breath and told herself, "Olivia's going to be so surprised. My girl will smile, like she used to." Karen didn't know that behind that door lay no warmth at all. What waited was a frozen world where pride and prejudice had been squeezing the life out of her daughter's heart. And on that very night, her unexpected return would strip everything bare. Karen stood motionless at the Harpers' front gate as winter wind slapped her face raw. She yanked her collar high, her trainer's calloused hand gripping the suitcase handle. Hope simmered in her chest, that first hug, Olivia's soft laugh, the words, "Mom, I missed you so much." Just the thought heated Karen's heart against Chicago's brutal cold. The stone path to the front door was buried in snow. No footprints. No one had cleared a thing. Odd for a house this grand. Shouldn't every detail be polished? From inside, amber light blood through the big panes, shimmering on the white drifts. Music carried, jingle bells, bright and bouncy, layered with the party's easy laughter. Karen slowed, peering in. Through film on the glass, she saw a long table draped in bright red, a golden roast turkey, steaming cornbread, red wine rippling in crystal. Around the table Charles, commanding at the head, Evelyn poised in velvet, Abigail chattering beside two kids. They laughed, raised their glasses, the chime crisp and merry. In all that glow, Karen waited to glimpse her daughter, and didn't. A chill pricked her heart. Where was Olivia? In the kitchen? Upstairs? Karen leaned closer but saw no sign of her. Then a small sound rose from the side porch, a weak, wavering whimper ready to blow away in the wind. Karen whipped around. Under a dull porch light, next to a poinsettia pot dusted in snow, Olivia sat curled on a wooden chair. Her hair was matted, a few wet strands stuck to her forehead. The thin blouse at her shoulders quivered, lips turned blue, hands clamped together against the cold. The sight made Karen's blood freeze. "Olivia!" She lunged, voice breaking. Karen tore off her heavy coat and wrapped it tight around her girl. Olivia's body was ice, shaking without end. Her eyes, rimmed red, fluttered open. A breath, thin rasp, "Mom," one word, and Karen's throat closed. She pulled her daughter closer, feeling those frail breaths against her shoulder. From inside, the laughter kept rolling. Careless, cruel. Ethan's voice cut through, low and boozy. She locked herself in again, faking depression. "If it weren't for my parents, I'd have thrown her out long ago." A burst of laughter ricocheted from the table. Then Evelyn's syrupy voice, sharp as glass. "3 miscarriages and not one grandchild. Why keep her around?" Karen tightened her arms around Olivia, eyes blazing. Her chest felt ready to explode. Inside, they toasted and turned her daughter's pain into entertainment. Outside, her child fought the cold like she'd been discarded. Tears ran hot down Karen's face, but her voice came out steady, fierce as, "I'm here now, Olivia. You're not alone anymore." In that instant, Karen knew this was more than a reunion. This Christmas Eve would be a turning point. She would face the Harpers, and they would hear every word. Karen held Olivia close, feeling every tremor in that thin frame. Her heart thundered. Part agony, part a fire she'd never felt before. In her mind, the laughter inside the mansion became knives, slicing deeper with every note. She rose, still cradling Olivia, and strode to the front door. Her calloused fist hammered the heavy wood. "Open up! I'm Olivia's mother!" Her voice shook the air, but the music and glass clinking rolled on, as if no one cared. Her jaw set, Karen pounded again. The door swung wide, and Evelyn appeared. Velvet the color of wine, a lacquered red smile, a glass tilting in her hand. Evelyn's gaze flicked to Olivia in Karen's arms. Annoyance flashed, then vanished beneath a practiced grin. "Oh, Karen, what a surprise," Evelyn purred, sugary and false. "You came back without a word. We should have prepared a proper welcome." Karen locked eyes with her, words hissing through her teeth. A welcome. Is this how you welcome my daughter? Leaving her on the porch in 28 degrees wearing a blouse. Llewellyn's mouth tipped up. She shrugged. Olivia wanted fresh air. You're overreacting, Karen. Come in. No need to stand out in the cold. Before Karen could answer, Ethan sauntered out. His eyes were flat, shirt half unbuttoned, the reek of wine heavy. Arms crossed, he stared and jerked his chin. Mom, close the door. Let her stand out there. I'm done with this drama. Let her. Karen growled, stepping over the threshold. The living room blazed, logs snapped in the fireplace. The table was still heaped with food. Every face turned toward her. Charles's chilly stare, Abigail's raised, brow contempt, and heat roared in Karen's veins. She set Olivia gently on the sofa, tucked the coat tighter around her, then faced the Harpers. Her voice rang like iron. Listen carefully. This isn't fresh air. This is abuse. You've demeaned her, mocked her, and left her like trash in the snow. And tonight, I will not be silent. The room dipped into a hush. The Bluetooth speaker kept playing, but no one was listening now. Ethan snorted and stepped forward. You don't get to insert yourself into my family. Olivia is weak. She fakes being sick to dodge responsibility. We've put up with enough. Karen closed the distance, her voice low and razor sharp. Put up with it. My daughter lost 3 babies, tore herself apart, and you kept grinding her down. You call that putting up with it? Charles stood, set down his glass, and let his voice roll across the room. Karen, this is my house. We have our own rules here. If Olivia can't meet expectations, she lives with the consequences. Karen's fingers curled, nails biting her palm. In that instant, she understood this wasn't a family argument anymore. It was a mother against an empire. She drew a breath, lifted her chin, and cut each word clean. You want rules. Fine. From now on, we talk about the law. This isn't your private matter anymore. This is domestic abuse. And I'm dragging it into the light. The air turned heavy. Silence swallowed the room, broken only by Olivia's muffled sobs and the quiet crackle of flame. The living room air thickened, as if even the fireplace couldn't thaw the cold pressing in. Karen stood tall, eyes blazing, body tight like a fighter stepping into the ring. She knew challenge, knew bruises and blows. But this opponent wasn't a boxer. It was a dynasty convinced money and reputation could bury any sin. Ethan sniffed, slid a cigarette from his pocket, and lit it with swagger. Your mother always has to make a scene, he said, blowing smoke into loose rings. Olivia's a burden here. No kids always crying. You call it abuse. Sorry, that's just facts. Karen moved in, gaze scorching. She jabbed a finger at him. Facts. The fact is you left your wife in skin, splitting cold, shivering in the snow like a beggar. The fact is you're no man. Just a coward propped up by your family while you grind down the woman who trusted you. A soft, scandalized "oh" fluttered from the table. Abigail laughed, high and bitter. Listen to her. Some retired old coach lecturing the Harpers. You think you have the standing. This is our home. We took Olivia in, gave her a roof, gave her everything, and you barge in to wreck our evening. Karen's smile was cold, eyes bright with tears she refused to shed. A roof, everything. You gave her nothing but contempt. I've been wiring money to Olivia for years. Those transfers kept her going, not your lavish parties. Charles slammed upright, his voice dropping like a gavel. Enough! Karen, you're out of line. I sat on the bench. I know the law. Without evidence, your words are slander. You might ruin your own name, but you'll never bring down the Harpers. The room fell still. Outside, the wind moaned against the glass. Karen's breath came hard and fast. Then a figure appeared in the doorway, as if he'd been standing there all along. He wore a police uniform, snow still clinging to his shoes. Hair cropped tight, face set, eyes steady. Years ago, Daniel had been a shaky teen in Karen's community boxing class. Now he was a patrol officer. Their eyes met. In Daniel's look, Karen felt witness, and the spark of justice that meant she wasn't alone. He stepped in, voice deep, and even, I've been outside long enough to hear everything. And I can confirm, Mrs. Mitchell is not making this up. This is clear neglect and psychological abuse. The room jolted. Evelyn squeezed her glass so hard red wine crept over the rim. Ethan froze. The cigarette slipped from his fingers. Charles narrowed his eyes. Who are you to interfere in my family? Daniel didn't flinch. I'm a cop. I'm also Mrs. Mitchell's former student. I'm here as a witness, and as someone who won't let anyone trample a vulnerable woman without consequences. Karen drew a long breath, turned to her daughter, and clasped Olivia's hand. Her voice was steady, decisive. From today on, you're not alone. We fight together. That Christmas Eve ended in a heavy hush. Karen led Olivia out of the Harper mansion under a chorus of hard stares. Before the door shut, Evelyn knifed her voice into the night. Go ahead and try, Karen. You'll regret crossing us. Karen didn't answer. She only tightened her arm around Olivia and guided her into the snow where Daniel's patrol car waited. The cold cut like blades, but inside Karen, a fire rose higher than ever. This was only the beginning. Daniel drove them to Karen's small place on Chicago's south side. It was modest. A worn couch, a tiny kitchen, a few boxing photos on the wall. Karen laid Olivia on the sofa and tucked a blanket around her, then made her a mug of hot tea. Olivia still trembled, eyes exhausted. But at least she was safe. When Olivia slipped into sleep, Karen sat with Daniel at the small table. The weak yellow light fell over the papers she'd pulled from a drawer, bank transfers, handwritten letters she'd mailed Olivia over the years, and a few photos of Olivia, thinned out, bruised by grief after each miscarriage. This is everything I've kept, Karen said, voice rough with feeling. Every time she called me crying, I wrote down the date. I know I couldn't always be there, but these lines, they're the truth. Daniel examined each sheet carefully, jaw set. Financial records and medical files will help. But we'll need more. The insults I heard at the Harpers. If we can record that, it's a hammer blow. Karen nodded, resolve sparking in her eyes. I'll find a way. I'm not afraid. They think power and reputation can bury the truth. I've stood across from fighters twice my size. Every giant has a weak spot. Daniel smiled faintly. You haven't changed. You still turn pain into strength. He paused. I'll file an initial neglect report. I'll testify too. But Karen, you need to brace yourself. The Harpers have deep ties in the legal world. They'll play dirty. Karen clenched her fist, her voice dropping to steel. I've trained for hard fights my whole life. This time I'm not fighting for a title. I'm fighting for my daughter. If I have to take on the whole system, I won't back down. In that moment, Daniel saw the coach from years ago, the woman who taught him to lift his head and never fear the fall. Now she wasn't just a former trainer, she was a mother bracing to face a dynasty for her child. Outside, snow kept sifting down over Chicago's roofs. Inside that small apartment, two flames took hold: a mother's love and the fire of justice. They would not go out. A gray winter morning in Chicago. Snow covered the steps of the Cook County Courthouse, where Karen and Olivia would face the Harpers head-on. Karen wore a plain gray suit, her face set with resolve. Beside her, Olivia drew into her long coat, gaunt but clinging to a faint spark of hope. Daniel, in uniform, walked like a shield at their side. Inside the lobby, Karen felt eyes turn. Local press had caught wind of the case. Cameras clicked. She heard the whispers. Is that the Harper case? I heard it's domestic abuse. Down the hall, the Harpers entered like they were attending a gala. Charles in deep blue, walking stick capped in silver. Evelyn draped in fur, red lips curved in confidence. Ethan tugged his tie and let a smirk fall where Karen could hear it. Get ready to lose. The hearing began. The judge sat high, expression unreadable. Karen's attorney, Martha Greena, a sharp, silver-haired woman, rose first. Your Honor, my client, Olivia Mitchell, has endured years of neglect and psychological abuse from her husband's family. We have evidence, medical records, documenting mental harm, financial transfers from her mother, Mrs. Karen Mitchell, contradicting the other side's claims of support, and, crucially, Officer Daniel Reyes, who witnessed the events on Christmas Eve. Karen squeezed Olivia's hand as if to pass strength between them. Olivia bowed her head, tears slipping as she nodded. When Martha finished, the Harpers' lawyer stood. Young, slick, voice like a razor. Your Honor, this is theater from a mother who refuses to accept reality. The Harper family sheltered Olivia and gave her a comfortable life. Her 3 miscarriages, tragic as they are, were health-related, not caused by any action from my clients. As for Officer Reyes, he has a personal connection to Mrs. Mitchell, making his testimony biased. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Karen felt heat surge to her face but held steady. Daniel took the stand, spine straight. I was there. I saw Olivia Mitchell outside on a freezing night, shaking, while the Harpers toasted inside. I heard them demean her. As a police officer, it's my duty to report and testify. The words landed like a hammer on the Harpers' chessboard. Karen caught Charles's face darken, Evelyn's glass tremble. Then the Harpers' lawyer cut in, cool and crisp. Your Honor, there is no recording. No physical evidence, it's just words. We object for lack of legal foundation. The judge frowned and looked toward Karen's table. The room sank into a heavy quiet. Sitting there, Karen felt it. This fight would be brutal. But with Olivia's shaking hand in hers, she knew she wouldn't retreat, not even against a system used to looking away. The courtroom was a fuse, ready to blow. After Daniel's firm testimony, momentum seemed to lean toward Karen, until the scale tipped back within minutes. The Harpers' attorney pulled out a stack of papers. Your Honor, we call another witness Martha. The Harpers' former housekeeper, a middle-aged woman, climbed the stand. Eyes evasive, voice wobbly but clear. I worked there for years. Olivia, she often shut herself in all day and ignored the housework. I did everything. Cooking, cleaning, entertaining guests. Honestly, she was lazy, a hiss of whispers. Olivia lifted her head, eyes swimming. Her lips shook. No, that's not true. I tried. Her voice thinned, lost under skeptical stares. Karen shot to her feet, thunder in her voice. She's lying. Olivia stayed up nights preparing meals. Those pies, those dinners alone. I have photos she sent me. She cooked for your parties herself. The judge banged the gavel. Mrs. Mitchell, order. This is a court of law, not a stage for outbursts. Karen bit down on her anger as the room drifted toward the Harpers. When Martha presented bank transfers Karen had made to Olivia, the Harpers' counsel pounced. These are sentimental gifts from a mother, not proof of neglect. If anything, they show Olivia's dependence. While my clients carried the real financial load, the gallery buzzed. Karen felt strangled, years of careful records twisted into weapons against her. Then Martha requested to play the Christmas Eve audio Daniel had captured. Ethan's and Evelyn's voices rang out, 3 miscarriages. Why keep her? She fakes being sick to get pampered. Olivia broke into choking sobs. The courtroom froze a heartbeat. Karen gripped her daughter's shoulders, hope flashing, until the Harpers' lawyer rose. Objection! The recording was made without consent. It violates privacy and is inadmissible. The judge frowned, paused, then struck the gavel. Objection sustained. The audio is excluded. Karen went numb. Olivia sagged, small shoulders quaking. Behind them, Daniel's fists knotted, veins rigid with contained fury. Charles tilted his head, a smirk ghosting his mouth. Evelyn adjusted her silk scarf, eyes like knives. Ethan lounged back, a chill smile like he already had the verdict. In that moment, Karen understood truth. Courage, even her daughter's tears, meant nothing to a machine already bought and paid for. But a different fire rose in her chest. If the court won't hold the line, I'll find justice elsewhere, she vowed, gripping Olivia's hand as if sealing an oath. The ruling dropped with visible unfairness. Olivia was granted a divorce, but the abuse claims were rejected for lack of admissible evidence. Most shared assets went to Ethan. When the judge's final gavel struck, the metallic beat echoed through Karen's chest, like a blade splitting her last thread of faith in the system. Karen steadied Olivia down the corridor. Behind them, the Harpers strutted, triumphant. Ethan straightened his tie and leaned close. "I told you. You can't win. Don't waste your time." Evelyn clung to her husband's arm, her bright red smile engraving deeper shame into Karen's heart. They didn't expect what waited outside. Dozens of reporters and onlookers had gathered, a journalist's photo of Olivia crumpled on the courtroom bench. Tears streaming, fingers locked around her mother's hand, had spread across social media within hours. That image, a young woman hollow-eyed and broken, clinging to her mom, pierced thousands of hearts. On Twitter, justice for Olivia began to climb. On Facebook, Chicago community groups shared the story in outrage. Wealthy, powerful family leaves their daughter-in-law to freeze outside. 3 miscarriages, and they mocked her. That's not family, it's cruelty. Local news outlets picked it up. A reporter pushed a mic toward Karen. "Mrs. Mitchell, what do you make of the court's refusal to recognize abuse?" Karen drew a steady breath. She wasn't one for cameras. But the truth needed air. "My daughter was left outside on Christmas Eve in below, freezing weather while her in-laws sat warm inside. I saw it with my own eyes, and a police officer was there too. If the court won't acknowledge it, I believe the public will know what's right and wrong." The quote landed clean and strong, aired on local TV, and riffed across feeds by morning. Within 48 hours, the story exploded. Comments, posts, video if justice is bought, then we will be justice for Olivia. No one deserves to be treated like that in their own home. Olivia's press school released a statement praising her dedication. Parents wrote letters of support, calling her a teacher with a heart of gold. Pressure mounted. Charles, once adored at political fundraisers, now met suspicious stares. Ethan, the rising attorney, got calls from major clients cutting ties over ethical concerns. Evelyn, a social club regular, found herself whispered about and quietly uninvited. Karen watched quietly. No gloating. To her, this wasn't victory, just proof the truth doesn't stay buried. One evening, Karen sat by the apartment window with Olivia under a blanket, city lights washing their faces. "Mom," Olivia whispered, "I never imagined so many people would care about me." Karen turned, squeezed her hand. "You deserve love, Olivia, not just from me, from anyone who sees who you really are. Don't you ever believe you're worthless. You are why thousands are speaking up." Outside, snow kept falling, but this time, warmth bloomed in Olivia, from a mother's love and from a community standing at her back. In the days after court, Karen's small South Side apartment became Olivia's shelter. Outside, media chatter roared and justice for Olivia kept trending. Inside, it was quiet. No sneers, no prying eyes. Just 2 breaths in lamplight and the soft steam of tea. Olivia spent hours wrapped in a blanket on the old couch, staring through fogged glass. Karen didn't push. She knew how to wait, like she'd waited for students to stand after their first knockdown. Olivia was learning to stand again after years of erosion by pain and shame. One morning, Karen set a simple breakfast toast, eggs, hot coffee. She pulled a chair close, slid the plate over. "Eat a little, honey. You need your strength." Olivia hesitated, then took a small bite. Simple as it was, a hint of warmth crept back into her eyes. The next day, Daniel stopped by out of uniform in a dark sweater, a small bag in hand. He set it on the table and smiled. "I remember you used to love cooking. I brought a couple cookbooks and some basics. Maybe we can try something easy." Olivia looked unsure, but Karen touched her shoulder. "Just try. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just be present." In that tiny kitchen, the 3 of them stood together. Daniel clumsily chopped vegetables, Karen flipped eggs, and for the first time in months, Olivia stirred a pot of chicken soup herself. Warmth spread from the stove, a soft scent filled the room. When they tasted it, Daniel nodded. "That's good. You'll have to teach me a trick or 2. Olivia let out a small laugh. To Karen, it was worth more than any trophy. In the afternoons, Karen walked Olivia around the neighborhood. At first, Olivia moved slowly and silent. Then she began to look up, at bare branches, at the sound of snow cracking underfoot. Each step was a proof she still existed, still capable of moving forward. One evening by the window, Olivia whispered, "Mom, if I can never have children, then what am I? Am I still a real woman?" Karen pulled her close, voice steady as bedrock. "Your worth isn't in your ability to have a child. You've lived, loved, and taught little ones every day. You are my pride. To me, you've always been enough." Olivia sobbed, but the tears weren't despair. They were release. From the chair across, Daniel added softly, "Olivia, you don't have to prove anything. You've been enough all along, by being you." The room settled into a healing quiet. Karen looked at her daughter and saw Olivia's eyes growing lighter. Not blazing bright, but warm and steady. A beginning glow. Chicago's winter dragged on, but inside Karen's apartment, the weather had changed. Gone were the sneers. In their place came calm mornings. Coffee drifting in the air, a spoon tapping porcelain, Karen's voice encouraging her daughter in small, steady ways. Olivia dusted off an old habit she'd once loved. She pulled out a worn notebook and wrote a few lines each night. "Today I walked with Mom. The snow was heavy, but somehow my chest felt lighter." Those simple sentences became proof of a quiet rebirth. Karen noticed and smiled, but didn't interfere. Healing had to come from Olivia herself. One weekend afternoon, Daniel arrived with a bunch of yellow tulips. He set them down and said, "Coach Mitchell once told me, it doesn't matter how many times you hit the floor. What matters is standing up one more time. I think that lesson is yours, too." Olivia studied the flowers, silent, then nodded. Her eyes shone, not only with sadness now. The next day, Karen took Olivia to the preschool where she used to teach. In the yard, a few kids spotted her and squealed, "Aim is Olivia." They barreled into her arms. Olivia froze and tears spilled. A parent stepped forward and took her hand. "You taught my child to sing. You were patient when she was shy. We know you're a great teacher. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Light cracked through the wall around Olivia. She hugged the kids and laughed through her tears. From a distance, Karen watched with a full, aching heart. Back home, Olivia sat beside her mom and Daniel. Her voice trembled, but it carried resolve. "Mom, I don't want to live in fear anymore. I can't change what's gone, but I can choose what comes next. I want to go back to school. I want to stand on my own." Karen pulled her in. "That's my girl." Daniel smiled, pride bright in his eyes. In the weeks that followed, Olivia started part-time at the preschool. Children's laughter, crooked crayon drawings tacked to the wall. These became her medicine. Her back straightened. Her eyes cleared. One night at dinner, Olivia said quietly, "I used to think I was a burden. Now I understand my value isn't in pleasing anyone, or in whether I can have a child. My value is in how I love and live honestly." Karen nodded, voice low and sure. "That's the lesson, Olivia. We aren't defined by what we've lost, but by how we rise after the loss." Outside, the snow finally melted, and the first green tips broke the ground. In Olivia's heart, a new spring was coming, of freedom, of courage, of a spirit learning to heal itself. March in Chicago had softened. Snow puddled along the curbs, and the first purple blooms pushed through stubborn earth. Karen stood at the apartment window, watching her daughter carefully prep tomorrow's lesson plans. Afternoon light washed over Olivia's face, so different from the hollowed figure of months ago. Emotion swelled in Karen's chest. She remembered that night, Olivia shivering on the frozen steps, lips purple, life slipping. She remembered the helpless fury when the court turned away. Now, sitting before her was a different Olivia, still tender, but choosing to move anyway. Daniel knocked and came in with a small box of pastries. Olivia's old favorite. He grinned as he sat. "I've got an early shift tomorrow, but first I wanted to celebrate, Ms. Olivia is back in the classroom. That's news worth more than any verdict." Olivia smiled. The gentle one Karen had longed for. "I don't know if I'm brave yet, but I know I don't want to be afraid anymore." Karen set a hand on her shoulder, voice firm and kind. "You don't have to be a superhero. Choosing to live truthfully, that's strength." Then, Karen lifted her gaze, as if speaking straight to the audience. Maybe you've witnessed injustice. Maybe you've felt the world turn its back and no one believed you. Remember this: justice doesn't live only inside courtrooms. It lives in the hearts of communities and in the people willing to stand beside you. Don't stay silent. Find help, tell your truth, and believe you are worthy of love. She paused, then squeezed Olivia's hand and went on. The greatest lesson I learned on this road is this: a person's worth isn't measured by meeting someone else's expectations. It's measured by holding onto your dignity, your love, and the courage to be real. My daughter was once called worthless. Today, she's an inspiration to thousands. If she can do it, any one of you can. Olivia glanced at her mom, eyes wet but lit with faith. Daniel nodded, adding, "Justice can be delayed. But when people rise together, no one can smother the truth." Outside, a rosy sunset spilled over Chicago. Light slid across the street and pooled in mirrored puddles. Olivia closed her lesson plan and rested her head on her mother's shoulder. Karen wrapped her in an arm and whispered, "We walked through the dark. Now it's time to live for the light." And the story didn't end with a courtroom victory. It ended with a victory of the heart, where a mother's love, human kindness, and a community's belief in the truth healed even the deepest wounds. March in Chicago had finally eased its grip. Snow had melted into small puddles along the curb, and the first purple blooms were poking through the hardened ground. Karen stood by the apartment window, watching her daughter carefully prepare lesson plans for the next day. The late afternoon light washed over Olivia's face, brightening it, so different from the gaunt, hollow look of months before. Emotion swelled in Karen's chest. She remembered her daughter shivering on those snow-covered steps, lips purple as if life itself were slipping away. She remembered the helplessness when the court turned its back on the truth. But now, right in front of her, stood a different Olivia. Still tender, but resilient, wounded yet choosing to move forward. Daniel knocked and came in, a small box of pastries, Olivia's old favorite, in his hands. He sat and teased, "Early shift tomorrow, but I had to stop by and celebrate. Miss, Olivia is back in the classroom. That's news worth more than any verdict." Olivia smiled, the gentle smile Karen had longed to see. "I don't know if I'm strong yet, but I do know I don't want to be afraid anymore." Karen placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder, her voice low and sure. "You don't have to be a superhero. Choosing to live true to yourself, that's strength." In that moment, Karen lifted her gaze, as if speaking to each person watching. Maybe you've witnessed injustice. Maybe you've felt the whole world turn away, like no one believed you. Remember this: justice doesn't only live inside courtrooms. It lives in the heart of a community, in people willing to stand beside you. Don't stay silent. Find those who can help, speak your truth, and believe you are worthy of love. She paused, then squeezed Olivia's hand and went on. The greatest lesson I've learned on this journey is this: a person's worth isn't measured by meeting someone else's expectations. It's measured by holding onto your dignity, your love, and the courage to be real. Olivia was once called useless. Today, she inspires thousands. If my daughter can do it, any one of you can. Olivia looked at her mother, eyes wet but shining with faith. Daniel nodded, adding the final note: justice can be delayed, but when a community rises together, no one can smother the truth. Outside, sunset blushed across the Chicago sky. The last rays spilled over the streets, lighting puddles that mirrored passing silhouettes. Olivia closed her lesson plan and leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. Karen wrapped an arm around her and whispered, "We walked through the dark. Now it's time to live for the light." And the story didn't end with a courtroom victory. It ended with a victory of the heart, where a mother's love, human kindness, and a community's faith in the truth healed even the deepest wounds.